Normally, I could have gone to spring training, and when my wife was going to be induced or go into labor, I could just fly home and go into the room. Well, they weren't going to let me do that. So I had to stay home. I was late to spring training. He was also born in a generational snowstorm in Houston, which does not happen. It does not snow in Houston. We had no water, no power for 3 days leading up to his birth. Anyways, ended up everything goes totally fine. And he's, our son, newborn for 3 days, and I have to leave. I have to go to spring training. I'm just gone and leave my, poor wife behind, who's a mother for the first time. And luckily we have awesome support system. Her parents, my parents that were able to help. But, I leave. I'm in Florida. They're home in Houston. We're FaceTiming. And Jackson, our son, has to get on a flight at about 10 days old and fly to Florida. And then spring training finishes, and we're starting to travel and play. And so I'm traveling around the country playing baseball. Well, now we have to move to Buffalo. So Jackson, at 4 months old, has already been on 8 flights.
What's doing, everybody? I'm Alec Lace. Thank you for watching First Class Fatherhood. Today's guest on the podcast is Ross Stripling. Ross is a Major League Baseball pitcher. He's currently pitching for the Toronto Blue Jays. He began his career with the LA Dodgers. He's pitched in the World Series. He's been on the All-Star team. It's an honor to have him on the podcast today. So get down there, smack the subscribe button, tap that like, and let's jump into it right now with Ross Stripling on First Class Fatherhood. Joining me now, First Class Father, Ross Stripling. Welcome to First Class Fatherhood.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, let's start right here. How many kids do you have? How old?
I got one kid. His name is Jackson, and he is just about 4 months old. So just getting going in the fatherhood thing, man.
Yeah, brand new. You still got the price tag on him. How did you guys find out what you were having with a gender reveal? Did you wait till the end? How'd you work that out?
So my wife always wanted to do gender reveal, right? I mean, that's just this generation. They love it. Put it on social media and then obviously have fun with it. With the pandemic, at that time, we found out we were living in LA because I was playing for the Dodgers at the time. And with COVID, we couldn't get family or anyone out there, so then we tried to maybe set it up through Zoom and all that. And it just didn't really work out. So we ended up still making it a surprise from a doctor, but we just videoed it ourselves and sent it out to family. So it wasn't as big of a gender reveal as we normally wanted to do. I don't know if she wanted to pop a balloon or throw a baseball to me or whatever it was that she had been dreaming up. Still a surprise. Open it up. It's a boy. That was a lot of fun. I remember that vividly for sure. Just wasn't as big of an event as I know she wanted it to be.
Very cool. You going to run it right back and try for the girl, or are you guys all one and done?
No, we'll run it back for sure. I think if the second one is a girl, we might call it quits. If we have another boy, my guess is she would want to shoot for a third one to get one of each there. But hopefully the American dream, man, one of each, 2 kids, call it good right there. I'd be happy.
Yeah, we were in that boat. We actually had the 3 boys, then we got the girl on the 4th try. So if not, we were going 5, but we got her on the 4th. So that
awesome.
was it for us. Ross, if you could please just take a minute here to hit my listeners with a little bit about your background and what you do.
Okay, yeah. So professional baseball player from Texas, live in Houston. Went to Texas A&M, drafted by the Dodgers in 2012, made it up and debuted in 2016. Played with them all the way until last year. Now with the Blue Jays. We wish we were in Toronto, but we're playing in Buffalo right now because because of COVID, the border is closed, so we can't get over into Canada to play. So we're playing at a AAA facility and grinding through a season. But it's been a ton of fun. This is a really young, fun team. I've been married to my wife Shelby since 2017, and like I said, our son Jackson is 4 months old.
Yeah, very cool. And I just recently had Mike Piazza on the podcast. He talked about having kids late in his baseball career. I think he was about 38 or so. Wow. Right towards the end of his career. You're doing it right now. What have been so far the challenges for you being a new dad while competing at such a high level in Major League Baseball?
Well, man, what a question. I could go on that for 30 minutes, I feel like. I've seen teammates do it. Clayton Kershaw is one in Los Angeles who has 3 kids, who is such a family-oriented person, and I've been able to learn a lot from him, how he has juggled being a father and also arguably being the best left-handed pitcher that's ever played our game, and just how he does it, So I've been able to experience it through other teammates and kind of knew what was coming my way. But then for the 3rd time in this podcast, I've already mentioned the pandemic, so I had to stay back. Our son was going to be born at the very start of spring training. Normally, I could have gone to spring training, and when my wife was going to be induced or go into labor, I could just fly home and go into the room. Well, they weren't going to let me do that. So I had to stay home. I was late to spring training. He was also born in a generational snowstorm in Houston, which does not happen. It does not snow in Houston. We had no water, no power for 3 days leading up to his birth. Just a crazy story. And anyways, ended up everything goes totally fine. And he's, our son, newborn for 3 days, and I have to leave. I have to go to spring training. I'm just gone and leave my, poor wife behind, who's a mother for the first time. And luckily we have awesome support system. Her parents, my parents, that were able to help. But, I leave. I'm in Florida. They're home in Houston. We're FaceTiming. And Jackson, our son, has to get on a flight at about 10 days old and fly to Florida. And then spring training finishes, and we're starting to travel and play. And so I'm traveling around the country playing baseball. Well, now we have to move to Buffalo. So Jackson, at 4 months old, has already been on 8 flights. And my wife has none with me, all with my wife. My wife's going through security, pushing him in the stroller, doing all that stuff that, moms do. They're superheroes, man. So it's just been crazy. I mean, in 4 months, he's been on 8 flights. He's been in multiple cities, but he's a happy, healthy little guy, and my wife's killing it. So it's, I really can't stress enough how crazy it is and how much as the men part of the baseball lifestyle, we rely on the wives and the mothers to take care of basically everything at home, because it's just so much workload on them during the season when we just can't be there.
Yeah, wow. We'll talk about like an introduction by fire here, relocating, pandemic, all this going on. Now, you mentioned it there too a couple of times with the pandemic. Now, having your first child during this, were you able to go to all the appointments? I know it's usually, especially with the first one, you're usually at your wife's appointments, every one that she has. Were you able to go into the room for all the appointments, or there was only selected few you were allowed to do?
Yeah, I could only go for ultrasounds. I could only go when we had a chance to see Jackson through an ultrasound. I think that was maybe only 3 appointments. And it was also varied by city. At the time, we were in Los Angeles when we found out she was pregnant. California obviously had much stricter rules. I don't think I was allowed to go in California at all. Once we got home to Houston, the rules had lightened up a little bit on what they were allowing for husbands. I mean, for a while, it was looking like I may not even be in the room. My wife was going to have to deliver in a mask, and I wasn't even going to be in the room. And luckily, Texas, lightened up those rules, I guess. And anyways, yeah, only ultrasound. So about maybe a little less than half the appointments.
Yeah, and Ross, I've had a lot of the NFL players on here, ask them about how the NFL is when they have young kids, and they all seem to be very pleased with the way the NFL handles them when they have new kids and the way that they make all their accommodations for them. How has Major League Baseball been so far for you and your teammates that have kids? Do they have certain things at the ballpark for the kids, for the families? Do they make it very family oriented in the major leagues?
Well, I'll tell you what, the answer is yes, but the craziest part about it is the paternity leave is only 3 days, right? So a lot of us try and set up inductions so that we can plan on being there, because you only get 3 days. So you want to set it up to where maybe you play a day game and then you can fly out that night, and then you get the next 3 days. Hopefully, maybe have your child that next day, so you get 2 days at home, and then you have to come back. I mean, literally 3 days, man. It's crazy, but. Yes, to answer your question, I mean, there's family rooms, there's suites at the stadiums, there's awesome amenities that the teams usually do for families, and also just the support system of the wives is so important. I remember in Los Angeles, we had 8 of us get married in the same off season. So we had 8 wives starting to travel with their husbands and move around the country with us, and for them to be in that together was huge. And now a lot of those women are starting to have children as well. So they really rely on each other, which is such a big deal to have that network. But yeah, to answer your question, the team also does plenty.
Yeah, very cool. And then obviously, Ross, you were trending on Twitter here the other day, and I seen that going on. I said, man, Ross is trending. I'm doing an interview with him coming up. What's obviously trending, not for the right reasons, unfortunately. Yeah. Now, one of the things, as a parent, obviously your son's very young, but one of the things is they look up to us. They're going to mimic what we do, our actions, our behaviors. Walk me through this incident here with Joe. What was going on in your mind? I know that I think the way you handled it afterwards was very professional and very respectful. So walk me through this whole incident and the aftermath that happened.
Sure. The worst thing you ever want to do is show up a teammate in front of, when we're on cameras, it's going to show up, and you basically look at a teammate and make him feel bad and put it on him. And what happened was Giancarlo Stanton hit a slow roller to Joe Panic playing third base. Giancarlo was not running hard, so I knew that Joe had a ton of time. So I'm screaming at Joe, you got time, you got time. Well, Joe tries to make a barehanded play and throw it, and Giancarlo ends up safe on first base. And what that was a culmination of a lot of frustration and anger from earlier in the season to now where I'm pitching better and have this is the sixth inning that like I feel like I'm about to get out of this outing and give our team a chance to win. And the outing before in Fenway against the Red Sox totally got away from me when I was one pitch away. So just like all these emotions, and man, I took it out on Joe. I like slam on the ground. I look at him, I go palms up, like, man, he wasn't running. What are you doing? Like I show him up, and he's a veteran. He's got gold gloves. He's won World Series. Like it's just not what you do as a teammate. In real time, I knew it was bad, but once I got in the locker room, my outing was over, and I saw the replay of it. It was awful, man. It was the most disrespectful thing I could have done to him. And as a teammate, it's just the worst thing you can do. So I apologize to him individually. I apologize to the team as a whole. I apologize on Twitter. I apologize to the media after the game. It's just you can't do it. And like you set an example for your children. My son obviously doesn't know that yet, but one day he might see that video and say, "What were you doing, Dad?" And I gotta tell him exactly what I just told you, man. It was frustration. And I took it out in the wrong area. I took it out on a teammate. You never do that. But what you do is you apologize afterwards. You take it head on. That's what a man does. And, it hasn't blown over quite yet. It's only been 24 hours. But I feel like that I was able to get ahead of it and apologize like that. It's already way better than what it would have been if I just left it alone.
Yeah, I agree. And Ross, obviously, it's easy to be the dad or the hero when things are going right. I think it's in these moments where we do have these setbacks or these failures that truly show our character and a testament to our character. And I think, like I said, the way you handled it afterwards was class. And I think he will, as he looks back at that as he gets older, he will see the way that you responded too. So I think it ended up being a learning lesson for you and will be, an inside look to you as your son gets older. Now, bringing it back into you as a dad here now, with the young son, what does the bedtime routine look like for you? Are you a lullaby guy here? Are you a storyteller? Are you reading them books? What's bedtime look like for you so far?
Man, bedtime is great when I get to be there. A lot of times we play a 7 o'clock game. I'm not getting home till 11. So my wife handles bedtime quite a bit. I'm more on wake up duty, which I enjoy just as much. But when I'm there for bedtime, my wife has a routine that she likes to do with them, which is, putting on the lotions and getting the boogers out of his nose, all the stuff you got to do for the newborns, right? And then we've got the sound machine. I think it's called a Hatch sound machine, man. That thing is awesome. It's got like 10 different modes. And we found that he likes the woods version, where it sounds like kind of like crickets are chirping and trees are blowing. And he loves that one. And we just kind of hold him and rock him and tell him we love him and just say, man, good night. And he's such a good sleeper, man. It takes him just a couple minutes. He goes right to sleep. And then we put him in the bassinet. He's still in a bassinet right now, coming up on 4 months. We don't know what we're doing with the crib and stuff yet. We've bounced around so much we don't even have a crib in some of the places we live. So right now he's just kind of sleeping next to the bed. But man, it's great. You get to be there, say goodnight, and then the first thing he sees in the morning too. When you get to be there for me, when I get to be there for bedtime and waking him up, it's just the best.
Yeah, and one of the cool things, as you mentioned before, FaceTime. I mean, that's something that wasn't always available, and now it's so readily available that I think it's a beautiful thing, especially a lot of the guys in the military that are serving. They have the opportunity to FaceTime in and get to take part in some of these things that they're missing out on, where otherwise you never even had a clue what was going on. So, excuse me, I think that's a pretty cool part of it. And let me ask you now, Ross, about your podcast here, the Big Swing Podcast. What was the genesis of that, and what can the listeners expect to hear when they tune in?
Yeah, so that's a podcast I've been doing for over 2 years now with my buddy back home in Houston. His name's Cooper. He's the co-host. And we just kind of talk about everything, man. I tell you what, I have a really cool network of former teammates and current teammates and guys you meet around baseball. And to be able to get them in there and have just like a 15, 20-minute conversation where they open up more than what you would see on the post-game interview, right, where they say things like, oh, God willing, we took it one pitch at a time, like those kind of like cliche answers. This is more of an open podcast type conversation with guys like Clayton Kershaw and Max Muncy, Justin Turner, guys from my Los Angeles days, and now on the Blue Jays, Bo Bichette, Kevin Biggio, like the young stars coming up in the game. So it's been a lot of fun. We do it once a week. They come out on Wednesday. It's called The Big Swing. We're liable to talk about anything. It's definitely baseball focused, but we'll talk about the NBA playoffs. We'll talk about the NFL. We'll just it's just kind of two guys kicking back, having a good time. We've done over, I guess, 120 episodes now, man. So we push them out every week, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, very cool. I'm going to drop a link in the description of this podcast episode to that podcast so my listeners can get over there and check it out. And then obviously baseball is bigger and better than I think ever before. I mean, young kids are playing it the 365 days a year now with travel baseball. Back in the day, it was like Little League, and then that was the end of it. So what kind of advice do you have, especially for the young pitchers out there, parents that have kids that are playing baseball, hoping to go next level, maybe into college, maybe to the big leagues? What kind of advice could you give to the parents on how to steer those kids?
Man, good question. You get asked that all the time, man. I was a weird story. I didn't pitch until I was 18 years old, versus now there's kids that know their spin rate at 10 years old. And it's just the game has gone very analytical and people get specialized at a young age. I played everything under the sun. I played football, basketball, and baseball in high school and just kind of found my niche in baseball as a pitcher and walked on in college. I wasn't going to the summer camps to getting recruited and going on visits and stuff like that. So my story is a little weird. So because of that, I like to say, tell them to do everything and tell them to have fun and tell them to, if they want to play lacrosse or tennis or golf or whatever, and also baseball, that's great. Everything under the sun and let them experience it. It's specifically to baseball. I think it's have fun and understand that, everyone kind of progresses at different levels, right? Like everyone wants to throw hard at 13, 14 years old. People already probably want to start like throwing 83, 84, 85 miles an hour. Because velocity plays in the game now, and strictly speaking, as a pitcher, I don't want you to get caught up into that and put too much pressure and stress on yourself. The game, it's a game. You're supposed to go out, have fun, and I think as long as your kid's having fun and doing that, man, you got a chance for them to move on to the next level. And there's tons of places to play, whether it's junior college, Division I, whatever it is. So as long as you're having fun, getting better, and feel like you're working towards something, set goals and work towards it, you got a chance to move on.
Yeah, well said, Ross. And then, just because it's brand new here, what do you think about these Major League Baseball, the new rules that they implemented here with the seventh inning doubleheader, the man on second base in the extra innings? What's your opinion here on the new rules?
I thought you were going to ask me about the sticky substance stuff for sure. This is much lighter than that one. You know what? I think it's been good in a pandemic. It'll be interesting to see what sticks moving forward. I do like the 7-inning no-hitters. The 7-inning doubleheaders. I think when you're staring 18 innings down on a doubleheader, that's a lot, but 14 actually is pretty doable. The man on second in extra innings, I think, is a little gimmicky. I wish we could maybe just play like a clean 10th inning, and then if you're still tied, just call it a tie. We play 162 games. Just call it a tie. There's tie in other sports. But those 16-inning games can just get outrageous. So I do think we need to address the extra innings, but I just don't know if starting with a man on second is the way to do it.
Yeah, well said. Now becoming a dad here and a young parent, hopefully, planning a bigger family here, has that put a number on retirement for you? Has this changed your perspective on your playing career? And do you have any kind of plans that you're looking for so far beyond your playing career?
Great question. You know what? I would say no as of now, as far as putting a limit on my career and when I might retire. I tell you what, man, every time you miss a bedtime or something that he does that's new, he's not crawling and that kind of stuff yet. But if I'm not there the first time he crawls, that's going to be gut wrenching, right? Like hopefully my wife catches it on video so I can at least see it through that. When you miss things like that, it's tough, and you realize how gone you are and how often it is, and how much pressure you put on your wife and the stuff that you missed, So now if you compound that with another child or two, that's just going to get harder and harder. So I certainly understand that. But at the end of the day, this baseball window is such a short, significant part of the life where we have a chance to take care of the family moving forward and take pressure off us later in life, So you got to take advantage of it and sacrifice some things at times. And as far as after baseball, the podcast was started to potentially pursue a media/broadcasting career, and if I want to go down that outlet, I think I would enjoy it a lot. I also do some finance things on the side. I'm actually a licensed stockbroker. I have my Series 7 and 66, which makes me licensed to be able to get clients, solicit them advice, and manage their money. So I'm also very passionate about that. I studied it in college. So probably one of those avenues, but maybe just be a dad for a couple years if I'm able to, finish my career strong and then see where my passions lead.
Yeah, good stuff, Ross. And then the last thing I want to hit you with here, I love to ask all the dads that I get on the podcast here. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. What kind of advice do you have for that new dad or for that about-to-be father who's out there listening?
Oh, man, great question. One of my teammates named Travis Bergen, who's about to have a kid any day, and his first kid, and he's been asking me, picking my brain. And what I've been telling him is, you can't really be prepared for it, but at the same time, you're going to know exactly what to do. it's just weird. I don't, obviously mothers, their DNA, they're birthing the child. That's totally different. But something in us too, where we just go into like help mode and we are calm and at least most of us, I hope, are calm and we're in there and we're helping and just trust that that's going to come out of you. And also, I mean, the classic one is just listen to whatever she says, right? I mean, do whatever she says. Just be there to support her. Man, those first couple weeks are all about mom. She's learning to breastfeed. The schedule's so tough on her. Wake up with her, just talk to her, be there for her, try not to just sleep through every night feed, be up with her and communicate with her and be there to support her, I think is a big one because it's just so tough on them those first couple weeks, even first couple months, right? So, man, it's just all about her and understanding that you're just there to help. And that's kind of what I've been telling them.
Yeah, very well said. I love the message. It's been a lot of fun for me. I got to say, Ross Stripling, you're a first-class father all the way. And thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time here on First Class Fatherhood.
Alec, thanks, man. This was a lot of fun.